The decline of Canajoharie was about the same as the decline of all the rest of these villages. And it was not simply because of that Beech-Nut got to be a much smaller thing and moved out. One generation, or first generation maybe, that owned these things or had they were the major stockholders. When they were gone, the desire for the almighty dollar made quite a difference. And that's how we lost most of the manufacturing here.
Very, very sad. It's disheartening. It's raised our taxes considerably. It's bad. It's a big tax base. Hero come in, bought us out, put a new plant up down in Amsterdam, and that took all of the Beech-Nut tax base away, and it took jobs away. When I started at Beech-Nut, there was 2,000 plus employees in Beech-Nut. And today, there's only 300 down in Amsterdam.
I think there's already scars from Beech-Nut leaving. I think we lost a level, and I'm not saying we lost all of it, but we lost a level of the executives that were working there. There was just a level of person, I think, that we lost out of the village. They had to go elsewhere to find the jobs they needed to maintain their lifestyles. So I think we lost a lot of that. And I think there's always going to be some scarring from that. You know, people miss the old days. They miss when Canajoharie was the way it was, when Beech-Nut was in full blast with all those people working and the streets were buzzing and busy, and I think people miss that. So I think there's already scars, you know, but I think it's sometimes more emotional scarring than it is anything else.
At first, we didn't notice a big difference. The jobs all went, people still had their jobs, they commuted to Amsterdam, so there wasn't really a big thing. There was a lack of people downtown during the day going out to lunch. So then the restaurants started struggling a little bit. So that made it tougher. And then after that, as those jobs turned over, they weren't necessarily given to Canajoharie people as they once were.
I left here back in '79, and you know, Beech-Nut was still booming at the time, but within a few years later, it started going downhill. And I believe, just like with everything around here, once they got sold and bought out by somebody from the outside of the area that didn't really care about the people in the village, then it started falling apart. Because I know my father, when he worked there, it was Beech-Nut, then it was sold to Nestle, and then Nestle got bought out by Purina, and then Purina got bought out by Hero, and you know, it's just this government bureaucracy, you know, where they're buying out each other, and that's what really made it go downhill. And then they started not really caring about the people in the village.
After I retired, when Beech-Nut started going downhill, I've had several employees come back to me 4 or 5 years after that, even up until 4 or 5 years ago, asked me if I wouldn't come back and try to straighten the mess out. And I said no.
The property was eventually sold to someone, and they just scavenged some of the salvageable parts of the plant and then just left it. So now it's a basic white elephant that the county is trying to do. As I said, it certainly affected the tax base, but it didn't affect when the school was built. We were fortunate enough, the Iroquois Foundation, they said, okay, this is the plans for your school, it's fine, now here's $1 million, make it better.
Me owning a business downtown now can really see the loss of the high school. High school was a big, intricate part of the downtown. The high school was. We were allowed as students to leave the high school for lunchtime. We were allowed to be a part of the downtown, and it just kept the downtown thriving and going into the restaurants, into the five and dimes, and it just kept things going. Once the high school left, we lost that aspect here in the downtown, and being up on the hill. Of course, you can't let kids out of school and let them go. We are very unique here, being that the school is right across in the downtown.
Losing Beech-Nut, that did have a big impact on the identity of the village because Beech-Nut has been so important over the years for Canajoharie. It provided jobs, and the Arkells, when, they were still in ownership, really made Canajoharie kind of what it is a modern community. We still have the Arkell Foundation, who has been incredibly generous to this community. And so that's kind of the legacy of the Arkells, as they have, left us with this foundation that has helped in many, many aspects of the community. They built the beautiful new museum addition on the library, and, they support many local programs like the summer music program and the youth center. So, they've been a huge asset for the community.
We are so fortunate. We have a total of 21 paintings by Winslow Homer here in the organization. We have 14 watercolors. They're incredible works of art, and we never tire of sharing them or talking about them. It is something that people come here specifically to see. We have a significant number of visitors who arrive by boat, either by design, or they're on a nice vacation and they decide to stop and spend some time with us, or they're on a nice vacation and the weather turns a little inclement, so they stay in Canajoharie longer than they had intended, and they come and spend time not only in the museum, but in the library, and they partake a lot of the programs that we do here.
Just gradual decline of the Northeast. Some call it the Rust Belt. The factories left, but our factory was still here. So it wasn't quite so bad when I first moved back. I came back in the early 90s. But now things have changed. Our demographic is different. There are a lot of people that are on assistance, and they have landlords. Some are out of town. They're scraping by. A lot aren't working. So our downtown went from people who were just busy to and from work and in and out doing business to people that are here in the daytime just kind of living and trying to get by. So it has changed the character. Yeah.
We've had times where the vegetables, we've had people steal vegetables. We've had people steal money off the stand. It may only be, $10, but it's enough for somebody to get some drugs if they need it. That's what we've come up with. People won't, and I've wanted to put up a sign, come work, we'll pay you to work. We'll pay you to, you can get any second vegetables that you want, we'll feed you. But nobody wants to do that.
I've been on the farm my whole life, so 25 years, and I love farming because I love the animals, and just there's a sense of home here. Like, even now that I'm grown up, I have 2 little girls and we have our own home, but it's not, I don't know, this is always just home. This is always safe and secured and different.
I've never been ahead of the game. I've always been behind, working to get ahead. And so it's been a struggle. So for me, we'll stay with the vegetables, we'll stay with the meats, and just try to get a little better at it, a little more efficient at it.
We have our chicken business, which we raise pasture-raised chickens. We have, in the fall, we'll do turkeys for Thanksgiving. We have our vegetables. We have the beef cows, and then we have the pigs. So, and then we do sell some hay if we have extra hay.
It's been getting rougher and rougher as time goes. There's less and less profit margin, more and more regulations, and the way I put it very simply is back in the 60s and 70s, a farmer could make money and retire nicely on it. And starting with the 1980s, it's been getting tougher and tougher, and now it's a break-even point. We're trying to manage that.
I've seen dairy cows leave this farm, and my dad having to go out and get an office job to support the farm, to keep the land in our name, to rent out property to other farmers so that way we could keep the land.
The thing I tell everybody today is in 1980 to 82, when I was in college, they told me to get big or get out, and I didn't believe them. And it's pretty much the future, is get big or get out.
Now I moved out. I don't live here every day, but we have horses and stuff at our farm, and I work for the highway department now, so it's a steady paycheck. I couldn't do that here.
I don't know. We've tried to do other things. You just always come back. It's a way of life. That's all we know.
You can't change it, you know. I'd love to do it. I'd love to be here every day so she could grow up the same way I did, but it just ain't gonna work that way, you know.
It's been tough on Canajoharie, and it's a horrible eyesore. You know, you get off the thruway and that's what you see. But I can say, with us being at the Syracuse market, people still remember Canajoharie as Beech-Nut. They don't even think now as Amsterdam as Beech-Nut, which is interesting to me. They're like, oh no, Canajoharie is Beech-Nut.
I don't regret the fact that things have to be different now. I realize that, you know, it can't be the same as it was 20 years ago.
Without Beech-Nut and Arkell and Smith, we probably wouldn't have survived very well the Depression, but without the rural farming community, we couldn't have either. And I don't know, it's much the same as when your relatives pass. You feel bad for a while, and then you accept it.
It used to be, when we grew up here, your parents may have worked there, your grandparents may have worked there, and your great-grandparents possibly worked there. So you, if you wanted, you had a job. Yeah, you had a job there. So now as that goes away, those factory jobs, it's not just Canajoharie, but all over America, those factory jobs went away. Then what do we replace them with?